on Prime Crime.
One of my employees has not shown up to work for 3 days.
Brutal murders in a family home.
In the early stages, no, there was no suspects. We didn't know who might have done this. We didn't have a clue.
And a case that brings whispers of dark magic to a quiet coastal town.
I would not harm my family, sir, for nothing in this world.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we break down the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. A family is found slaughtered, and it's the way they were killed that creates a whole new set of questions.
911, is your emergency?
One of my employees has not shown up to work for 3 days. So I came out to his house.
It's July of 2015. 47-year-old Richard R.T. Smith is living with his 77-year-old mother, Von Seal Bonnie Smith, and his brother, 49-year-old John William Smith, on a quiet, dead-end street in Pensacola, Florida.
His car's here. Doors are all locked. The windows, shades are all drawn.
But R.T. hasn't been heard from in a few days, and this causes his co-worker some alarm.
They were described as very reclusive type people. They stayed to themselves. They didn't socialize much outside of their own family.
Once authorities arrive, they realize the doors are locked, but with the help of the fire department, they gain access to the home.
There was a lot of stuff in the house, almost like hoarding.
It was full. It was full of a lifetime of collecting memorabilia and personal belongings.
It didn't look like there was a sign of a struggle. There was no signs that it was a robbery. I mean, there was money, there was jewelry. It didn't seem anything was out of place.
What appears to just be an odd home immediately turns into a gruesome crime scene.
All their throats were slashed. They were bludgeoned with a claw hammer, and the mother's fingertip was cut off. And only Richard was shot in the head.
R.T., Von Seal, and John are all found dead, their bodies in various rooms of the house. Investigators say the victims had been there for at least a couple of days.
We didn't know who might have done this. We didn't know if it had anything to do with Richard's job at Homeland Security or what. We didn't have a clue.
And that's when Von Seal's third son from a different marriage comes into the picture.
Donald Hartung showed up to the scene the day that the police arrived. He was questioned, as is every family member in any homicide case.
Interviewing him, it was really trying to get as much information as I could about the family. He was the only other family member around that we could find.
When was the last time you saw your family?
Tuesday. I got there probably about 1 or 1:30. I fixed dinner for him every Tuesday. I always put RTs in the stove.
Was he there when you were there Tuesday?
No, I never saw RT. Most of the time I leave before he gets home.
Every Tuesday he went to the Smith family residence. He always took his dog. He went there every week to cook dinner for his family.
What time did you leave, you think?
Normally we watch the national news.
At 5:30?
At 5:30, and then I leave right after that.
Where'd you go after that?
Home.
That's when the interview takes a curious turn.
Did they tell you how your folks, your family over there was killed?
Killed. They said they were deceased, and they never told me how they were killed.
They're dead, and it looks like they were killed.
Killed.
Mm-hmm.
He almost like questioned me, like he just repeated it to me, deceased? And I was like, yes, they were killed.
How were they killed?
It's hard to tell because there was a lot of clothes on top of them.
Clothes on top of them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Were they robbed? Or?
I don't think so.
In every case, especially a homicide, anyone's a suspect. Everyone's a suspect.
Why would somebody go in there and kill your mom and your two brothers and put clothes over them like that? To me, it seems like somebody that would do something like that would have known them or either been family because they didn't want to see them after they were dead.
That makes sense to me, but as far as I know, I'm the only family they got.
Up next, the investigation into the Smith family murders heats up.
Now I have to sit here and try and figure out who killed your mother and your two brothers.
Yes, you do, and I hope you do it soon.
You've shown no emotion the whole time you've been in here. It's like you almost prepared yourself for this.
I'll show plenty of emotion when the time's right.
It's the summer of 2015, and authorities are investigating a mysterious triple homicide in which a Florida family were violently killed in their home. Von Seal Bonnie Smith, along with her two sons, John and Richard R.T. Smith, were savagely murdered. Investigators believe Donald Hartung, Von Seal's son from another marriage, was perhaps the last person to see them alive after their weekly family dinner. Hartung sits down with Special Agent Matt Infinger in a series of interviews, where Hartung's behavior comes into focus.
How does it make you feel to hear that your family was killed?
Makes me feel pretty bad.
I mean, you don't seem
Well,
that upset.
I've got to control myself here. So I've got to take care of this.
Usually people show two types of emotion. They're either emotional, like visibly upset, crying, or they become angry. He showed neither.
He was cooperating, and maybe in his mind, if I cooperate, I'll be kind of involved in the process and I'll know what's going on. Some people handle shock and trauma differently.
Were you having problems with him at all?
No.
So something didn't happen when you were over there Tuesday night and you killed him?
No.
Because if something happened, now's the time to tell me.
I went at him hard a few times just to see how he would react or what he would say.
Looks like your brother John was just sitting there watching TV. And somebody just shot him while he was sitting in his chair. And then your mother was sitting in her chair. Somebody shot her, then drug her back to her bedroom.
Oh my God.
When I would accuse him or try and pin him down on things, he didn't become angry.
You were probably still there. And then RT comes home.
Me?
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I didn't kill my family.
It felt like to me that he had almost prepared himself for the interview, that he knew something like this was going to happen.
You killed these people. You killed your family.
No, I didn't.
Why?
I did not kill my family.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I'm kind of feeling like I'm being accused of something here that I
I
didn't
am
do.
accusing you of doing it. I think you did it.
I did not do it.
The conversation takes an interesting detour when police find something strange at Hartung's house.
I guess you have a Ouija board and some stuff in your house?
Yeah, I do have a Ouija board.
Are you a Wiccan or?
Yeah, I'm a Wiccan.
It was done 2 days before the so-called blue moon. It did become a thing that this was ritualistic.
In these ceremonies or whatever you do you have anything like sacrifices or anything?
No, there's no sacrifices in Wicca.
Really?
No.
The bodies were all in separate rooms, the placement of the bodies, and how the bodies were presumed to have blankets on top of the bodies to keep them warm.
They drain the blood out of their sacrifice and hit them in the head. Then they cover them. That's the same way your family was killed.
They were what?
Why don't you tell me what you did to them?
The Wicca community actually responded to it and said that this has nothing to do with what we practice, and in fact, we don't condone ritual killings.
As we, as prosecutors, got further into the case, we did not believe that it had anything to do with his religion and that it was not some sort of ritualistic killing as initially believed.
Coming up, investigators believe they have their suspect, but he's adamant he didn't kill his family. Could there be truth to what Hartung is saying?
I promise you this, I'm going to find out.
I know
And
you will,
if you
sir.
did it, I'm going to find out and I'm going to put your ass in jail.
I would not harm my family, sir, for nothing in this world.
Why'd you kill him?
Why would I kill him?
Why did you?
I did not kill my family, sir. I did not. I did not kill him.
A Pensacola, Florida family is murdered in cold blood in the summer of 2015. Von Seal Bonnie Smith and her two sons, John and Richard R.T. Smith, hadn't been heard from in several days until their bodies are discovered inside their locked home. Investigators question Von Seal's son from a prior marriage, Donald Hartung. They believe he was the last person to see them alive days earlier, but he says he didn't hurt them. Special Agent Matt Finger is not buying his story.
I didn't do anything to my family,
Yeah,
sir.
you did. And you killed them all the same way. Stabbing them.
Stabbing them? They were stabbed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Then there's the question of DNA, a pivotal piece of evidence in many cases. But perhaps DNA can only go so far in this case.
He claimed that he was always at that house. So having his DNA all over the home wasn't something bizarre.
However, there were a few things that stood out.
Do you smoke?
Yes, I do.
What do you do with the cigarettes when you're done with them?
Throw them in the trash.
There was cigarette butts in different levels of the trash can in the laundry room. Once we got the DNA back on those, they were Donald's.
The way it was positioned was obviously suspect. It was on top of some bloody items and some personal belongings of Von Seal's.
Did you touch any of RT's belongings?
Ortiz belonging. No, sir.
We located Richard's binder. Donald's DNA was on Richard's checkbook, which was inside that binder.
I don't mess with nothing of Ortiz.
We would expect that Donald's DNA would be within the family home. However, it was the places that we located it where it should not have been. There was also a hammer that was found on the side of the sink that we believe was washed, and that had actually all of the family members' DNA on that.
I mean, do I look like some kind of a blooming maniac to you people?
I mean, you do to me.
Infinger narrows in on Hartung, revealing an unexpected observation from other witnesses.
Neighbors say nobody comes and goes over there. The only person they ever see come and go over there is you.
They kind of kept to themselves. They really weren't involved with the rest of the community. It was kind of known that they didn't really let outsiders into their home.
Nobody has seen these people since Tuesday, since you saw them. So how are you going to sit there and tell us that you didn't kill them when you were the last one to see them? They trusted you, and you killed them.
I would never harm my mother, never hurt my brothers, never.
Could Donald Hartung have killed his own family? The question would be, why?
Does it seem like Mom loved your half-brothers more than she loved you?
No, never.
Would you be surprised if I told you that she spent $6,000 last month on QVC?
I'd be shocked.
Would you be mad that your inheritance is being blown on QVC?
Hell no, I don't give a damn about no inheritance.
He was, I believe, in his 60s at the time. He was making maybe $10 an hour working as a security guard for a hospital.
We discovered that Donald really wasn't living that comfortably. He didn't have a lot of money. He was basically living paycheck to paycheck.
Does Mom have an insurance policy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Does Mom have a will?
I think she has a will, but I've never seen it.
They never found a copy of the will in his home or on any of his electronic devices. So there's no concrete proof that he even knew there was a will.
Do you know what you're entitled to in that will?
I have no idea what I'm entitled to in any will.
It would be common knowledge for anyone to know that if his entire family was deceased, he would be the sole heir to their estate.
Do you realize on something, case like this, the insurance company calls the sheriff's office and wants to know if you're a suspect?
So you're insinuating that I killed my family to get their life insurance policy. Do I look like a total maniac to you people?
Yeah. The way you're acting, yeah.
Yes.
Within 3 weeks of his family being murdered, he actually resigned from his place of employment.
Donald, are you a cold-blooded killer?
No. No, sir, I'm not a cold-blooded killer.
On October 27, 2015, after a 3-month-long investigation, police announce an arrest. Donald Hartung is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and is faced with a possible sentence of death.
We were certain that Donald Hartung was the only person who could have committed this crime. The motive in this case came down to simple greed. He wanted money.
When we return, it's the murder trial of Donald Hartung. Yet, Do prosecutors really have enough to convince a jury he's guilty?
They never found the murder weapon. There were no witnesses. Nobody actually saw him do anything. All they had were these little bits of evidence.
You know exactly what's going on.
No, I know what's happened.
Yeah, exactly. You do know what's happened because you were there when it happened.
No, sir, I was not.
In the summer of 2015, 3 members of the Smith family were brutally murdered in their Pensacola, Florida home. Authorities discovered the bodies of Von Seal Bonnie Smith along with 2 of her 3 sons, John and Richard R.T. Smith, beaten, stabbed, and R.T. even shot. After a series of interviews and a collection of evidence, investigators arrest their suspect, Von Seal's 3rd son, Donald Hartung. Nearly 5 years after the killings, in January 2020, prosecutors began laying out their case against Hartung.
This family was brutally and violently murdered by this defendant. And the evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that he did it all for their money. His mother left everything to his 2 brothers, John and Richard. She specifically excluded him from her will. And what you will see during the course of this trial through evidence is that for him to get anything, they all 3 had to die.
The strongest evidence in the case that pointed toward Donald Hartung was the DNA. We found DNA on the underside of Richard's belt, which had been kind of lifted up like his body maybe had been moved. We also found Donald's DNA on it was a little case that Richard used to carry with him all the time. Some of the contents of the bag had Donald Hartung's DNA. That should have not been there.
But prosecutors have something else up their sleeve. Before trial, they received new information from Hartung's cellmate.
During the autopsy of Von Seal Smith, it was discovered one of her pinkies was cut off.
We all believed that the finger injury was probably a defensive wound, but then the cellmate of Donald Hartung told us that the finger was actually cut as a form of torture.
And who better to tell this than Hartung's cellmate himself?
Did he tell you anything about what his relationship was like with his mother?
He hated his mother. She left him out the will. That really made him mad, he said.
Probably the easiest piece of evidence in the case, the informant in the jail telling us everything that Donald had confided in him about the murder.
Did he tell you who killed his mother and 2 brothers?
He said he killed them. He said he wanted the money because she left him out the will.
He made mention of things that we knew he would not have known just by looking at paperwork or looking at any of Hartung's discovery.
He went to his mother, then he tortured her so she can tell the combination for the safes. He told me that he put clothes on the body so they couldn't tell the time of their death.
But can the jury trust testimony from a man who faced serious charges himself of assault with a hammer? That's exactly what Hartung's defense jumped on. Is he credible?
You testified earlier that Mr. Hartung was angry because his mother had written Mr. Hartung's son out of the will.
No, written both of them out of the will, him and his son.
But that's not what you said in that first interview, correct?
I can't recall.
Well, did the truth change?
We're always a little leery and probably reluctant because cellmates or jail informants typically want something in return and they have credibility issues.
And the defense didn't end there.
None of the investigators had any suspect beside my client. They didn't bother looking at anyone else.
Hartung's attorney brought in their own forensic pathologist to challenge the original timeline.
Can you say within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty these bodies were not killed on Tuesday?
I cannot tell you it's impossible. I can tell you that Tuesday is inconsistent with the scientific and medical evidence.
I believe that there was some doubt cast by the defense. I didn't think it was a slam dunk case for either side.
After 4 hours of deliberations, the 12-person jury reached their verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Donald Hartung, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
It was satisfying to see him get found guilty. There was a lot of uneasiness in the community when this happened. This, doesn't occur every day.
But that wasn't the end for Donald Hartung, as he still had to learn if the jury would choose life or death during his penalty phase. But before he's sentenced, he makes an interesting move, one even his attorneys were unaware of.
Counsel want to say anything before he starts talking?
I have no idea what he's going to say.
Mr. Griffin didn't even scratch the surface of my case. I respectfully request a mistrial.
I believe that he was a bit of a narcissist. I think that he thought he could outsmart the prosecution.
I loved my jury. They paid attention. They paid close attention. But, Your Honor, they were duped. You were duped.
There's been no evidence that Mr. Griffin or Ms. Wilson have been ineffective.
After 2 days of the prosecution arguing for the death penalty, the jury made a decision.
Eligibility for the death penalty, with the jury unanimously find that the aggravating factors that were proven beyond a reasonable doubt, Section A, outweigh the mitigating circumstances. No.
I'll sentence you life in prison on each count.
We were disappointed with the sentence, as we felt death was an appropriate sentence. But we also understood that it is a very difficult decision for a jury to make unanimously. Prosecuting this case was very difficult, but it was very rewarding. The relief came in this case knowing that all of our hard work had finally paid off and that the victims in this case received justice.
Clearly, this wasn't an easy case, especially since there really wasn't a smoking gun, that one piece of evidence that's sure to convict. Yet when all the pieces of the puzzle finally were put together, the jury came back and found Donald Hartung guilty, bringing justice for Von Seal, John, Richard, and the rest of the extended family. Thanks for joining us here on Prime Crime. Until next time, stay safe.